Hi, it's Wendy, dcshower@aol.com. This is my second slice of a presentation. So we went over muscle anatomy, and now we're going to go over bony anatomy. So I've got a plastic model of a spine. So we've got the spine here. We've got our pelvis, our tailbone, and our hips. This bone underneath here is called the ischium, or the ischial tuberosity, otherwise known as the sits bone. There's a reason why it's called the sits bone, because that's where we're supposed to sit. So when we actually sit on these bones, it brings us more upright, and we're using bone instead of muscle and ligaments to keep us up. Unfortunately, what happens is that most people tend to sit on their soft tissue, which is their butt, and it torques onto the pelvis. It'll strain the muscles and ligaments here. So it's like, not as a car accident strain where you get one big hit and the muscles overstretch. This is like a micro strain where you sit there for prolonged periods and those muscles slowly are stretched and stretched and stretched. So when we sit on our sit bones, we're going to be more upright. So what I'm going to have you do is, where you're sitting right now, I'm going to have you, you're probably sitting back a little bit, I'm going to have you just kind of roll yourself forward, which is going to put you on your sit bones. And don't worry if you can't feel it right now. When we go into the exercise portion, I'll make sure that everybody can feel it. But I just want you to right now, just try to roll yourself forward and just feel how that feels. So if this would be more neutral position using our bones, how does that look? I would assume that most of you are going to think that doesn't look so comfortable, yet that's how our posture is. So it's probably 4 years ago, I had a patient walk into me, and she was like this. And she was walking in, and she was in a lot of pain and obvious distress, and I tried to help her on the table. And if anybody's had spasms, you know that people can't really help you move, that you have to slowly do it yourself. So she finally, which seemed like an eternity, got herself onto the table, and I said, "What happened?" She said, "Dr. Wendy, I don't know what happened. I was in a meeting, and I went to get up after the meeting. It was only an hour, and I couldn't. I dropped back into the chair because I had these spasms and a sharp knife-like pain. And I slowly got myself up, and here I am." And I said, "So were you like sitting in your chair twisted? Like, was the speaker over there?" "No," she says, "I was in this comfy chair, feet on the ground." And I said, "So it wasn't like the chair's too big, too small, plastic?" She said, "It was a great chair." I'm like, okay, something isn't adding up. You don't just sit there and then go into a spasm. And I said, "Were you sitting like this, or were you sitting like this?" She says, "Oh, I was really tired, and I slouched into my chair because I was so uncomfortable, or like I was so tired." And I said, "Bingo, you sat there, you strained your muscles and ligaments, and then they go into a spasm to protect you, and here you are." So she thought that one event was the issue. In reality, her sitting at her computer with that kind of posture slowly created a trauma into her spine where it took one event and then it went to a spasm. So it was that straw that broke the camel's back. So what I don't want you to think, though, is, okay, great, I'm doomed. I sit at a computer. This is how my life is going to be. I'm probably going to have spasms. So what I can tell you is, you're not doomed. There's things that you can do, but it's going to take some consistent change over time in order to make a better, happier spine. I had a patient come in. She had neck and upper back pain, and she knew. She says, "It's from my computer, but I don't know what to do." And she says, "I want it gone." So I did what I normally do. I do my exam. I tell her what I can do, and then I said, "This is what you need to do." She says, "I'm on it. I want to change." So I gave her stretches, I gave her exercises, and she did everything that I said, and her pain went away. Well, this lady works in our complex, and you'll see her 3 times a day, getting outside, walking around the building. She takes her 2 10-minute breaks and her lunchtime to go move. she is like the perfect example of what could happen if somebody just makes some little changes. It's not like she's walking miles, it's just little bits. So what can you do to make a change while you're at your desk? The first thing I tell people to do is water. How much water are they drinking? My recommendation is half your body weight in ounces of water. And I usually don't like people to go past that 100 ounces. So water's great at bringing nutrients into your cell. It takes waste away from your cells. It's needed for I don't know how many enzymatic reactions in your body. But the greatest thing about water, it gets you out of your desk because you've got to go to the bathroom. That is my #1 secret to getting people up and out of their desk. And of course people say, well, if I drink too much water, I'm in the bathroom all the time. It's like a dry plant. Once the water goes, it'll go through, but then it'll start to hydrate, and then you'll be fine. So get enough water so that you have to get up and go to the bathroom. Number 2 would be when you're on a phone call, I'm going to have you stand up and talk. Don't stay seated. If it's a 20-second call, then you can. But if you're going to be on the phone for a while, stand up, hold on to your phone, and you can move around. That way you're getting some movement during the day and getting yourself out of your chair and taking you out of that bad posture. You could also have, if you're having like a 2 or 3 person meeting, go for a meeting walk. Get out, you'll get some fresh air, you'll get some blood pumping, and you'll have some good ideas that come out because you're moving around. So that's another option. Get up and go talk to your coworker. If you've got something to tell them, something to give them, get up and do that. About 7 years ago, I started noticing spines starting to stiffen up, and at least in my practice, in my little world, people were telling me that they no longer got up and went to other cubicles or offices. They would instant message or just phone them. So they would stay seated, they didn't have a reason to get up and go, and what I found is that habit stuck, and even though I'd say go up and talk to your coworker, it was too easy to pick up the phone or email. So if you can, try to get out of your chair and go give the information to your coworker. That's another way of getting yourself up and out of your desk. How about instead of taking the elevator, take the stairs. If you have to, and I don't know your world, I know my world, but if possible, if you're having to read something on the computer, if you can print that out, have an actual piece of paper, print it out, and then you can stand and read it. Or better yet, find yourself a hallway that doesn't have a lot of people going up and down, and just slowly walk as you're reading the paper. That way you get a little bit of exercise and some movement as you're doing that. That's a great way to get out of that sitting posture. Okay, so we're drinking water, we're getting up, we're moving around, and I know there was another one that I have now forgotten. Grab my paper. Oh, the best one, a pedometer. Get yourself a pedometer, a Fitbit, a Nike Fuel, an Up Jawbone. These are all new technologies that will tell you how far you've walked, how many calories you've burned. And what I'm finding with my patients, this was a great invention, what I'm finding is that their activities levels are skyrocketing, and so many of my patients are getting their 10,000 steps. And it becomes a contest. Somebody in the next cubicle got something, and they're like, well, how many steps did you get? And it's been amazing to see. That's probably the biggest thing that I've seen over the past, I don't know how many years, to get people up and moving. And 10,000 steps, if you have an average stride, is about 5 miles. And that's not too shabby. Okay, and then of course the last thing is going to be the exercises and the stretches that I will be showing you. So, Sandra is not her real name, patient who came to me for low back pain. And she came in, and as I always do, I did my examination, I told her what I could do, and I told her what she needed to do to help herself. So she'd come in and I'd adjust her and she'd get better, and she'd be gone for a little bit, and she'd come back in with the same thing. And I always asked her, it's like, how are those exercises going? and she would say, I forgot to do them, or I'm too busy to do them, or I can't remember how to do them. And this went on for a while, and I can only help people so much. Like, the adjustment would help her, but it never really fixed her. She needed to do her part. So now, 5 years after she started, she had just recovered from a hip replacement surgery. And I got the words that I never wanted to hear from any of my patients. Dr. Wendy, I wish I would have listened to you 5 years ago, because I probably wouldn't have had surgery. And I know all of you out there, you're busy. You're working for 2 to 3 people. You don't have a lot of time. But what I'm asking is that if you just take moments, and I'm going to show you, I've been in practice a long time, so I know how to fit things into people's days, that if you just attempt the exercises and stretches that I'm going to show you next, I promise you there's going to be some change that'll happen.